Hey guys, welcome to Modular Games. My name's Kyle, and I think I must have missed the train because I found out recently what the two biggest things to hit the role-playing scene in the last couple of years is, and while I knew about both of these games before, I didn't realize quite how big of a deal it really was. First one is Shadowdark. Shadowdark is a rules-light, old-school style of D20 role-playing games, similar to early editions of D&D. I'll link something in the description below. It is this fantastic game. If you don't know about Shadowdark yet, go ahead and look at that, and then come back to watch this video afterwards. The main event that I'm talking about right now is DC20. And the reason why I'm talking about it right now is because it is on Kickstarter right now, and you should buy it. I have a lot of things to say about this game, both good and bad, but I'm probably still going to buy it despite the fact that I have mixed opinions because it really is just that spectacular. Okay, first of all, I'm going to talk about pros to the game. Second of all are cons. And third, I'm going to talk about a much larger category of things that I'm not really completely sure about. Some of them are neutral and I really don't have an opinion, and others I think are both good and bad. Okay, so first of all are the pros. Number one, organization. I have to give the Dungeon Coach props because this book is extraordinarily easy to read and easy to find the things that you're looking for in it. Number two, you have a set formula for the number of hit points for your character. This makes creating your character at whatever level extremely easy to do. There's none of this rolling 25d8 to try and figure out how many hit points you have. It is very set. It is a low number. I calculated out. I believe that the maximum number of hit points is going to be less than 60, and at level 1 you're going to have something less than 10. So it is a pretty narrow range, but you still get into superhero territory at the end of your career, which is exactly what I think most players really want. It's a wonderful medium. Okay, next point is the resource system for spellcasters and marshals is apparently quite symmetrical because spellcasters have mana points and they spend those on all of their spells, and then the marshals have stamina points that they can spend on their abilities to enhance them. This is a very simple system and I think it is wonderful. This is of course without the nuance of actually looking through the specific features of character classes, which I will cover in another video. After that we have language tiers. I love the fact that there are different tiers to learning a language. I created a role-playing game system a few years ago, and I just didn't know what to do with languages because I know how hard it is to learn a language. It's not like learning another skill, and the fact that he has 3 different tiers to learning a language is absolutely spectacular. In addition to that, a specific mechanic that I am a big fan of is the impact damage. Impact damage is essentially you take forced movement and you're forced to stop before the end of that movement. He has implemented the exact same set of house rules that I have been using since D&D 3rd edition, and I think that's wonderful. Essentially, in D&D 3rd edition you would take 1d6 damage for every 10 feet that you fall. And my house rule was if you force somebody to go into that wall, then how far were you going to throw them? Oh, your throw was going to take them 30 feet? Oh, well, they only traveled 5 feet, which means that they had an extra 25 feet they should have moved. They're going to take falling damage they're going to take falling damage for that 25 feet that they were unable to move. Smack! And that is really, really fun. Turns out the Dungeon Coaching system is a little bit different because it's per square rather than per 10 feet, and it's just 1 point of damage each interval, and that makes it extraordinarily simple and easy to adjudicate. Next up, we have grappling. Grappling is one of those rules that gets really weird and wonky in some systems, and I think that the Dungeon Coach kind of nailed it to make this simple and predictable all the time. Also, grapple maneuvers exist. So you can grab that guy and use him as a human shield, you can throw him, you can do all sorts of things. The fact that he put that into the rules is a definite plus that many people leave out. Also, there are weapon maneuvers that are available to everyone who wields certain weapon types, and there are passive benefits to wielding those certain weapon types, even if you don't use the special actions associated with the weapon. This is both good and bad, but primarily it is a positive. All right, moving on to the cons. This game overall is complicated. There are a lot of rules to go through, and that is the first con. It is definitely a rules-heavy version of D20 role-playing. Second point is there are two different types of advantage, and this kind of just makes me scratch my head. I like the advantage system. I like the fact that advantage stacks. You got advantage, you roll 2 dice, you take the better of 2. It stacks. Let's say you have 4 instances of advantage, you roll 5 dice, you take the best result. Wonderful, it stacks, it's wonderful. This is exactly what I wanted. But the help action works differently. Whenever someone comes up beside you and says, I'm going to help, they don't let you roll an additional die. They add an 8-sided die and add that to the total of your roll. And I have nothing against that mechanic. I think it's a wonderful mechanic. But the fact that there are 2 completely separate mechanics that are both called advantage, it hurts my brain, and I don't like it. And I think that a lot of gaming tables are going to just pick one of these 2 rules and use them for everything, and they won't use both of the separate rules together. All right, next point on the con side is something called grit points. Grit points are a feel-good mechanic where you can just spend a point in order to get a bonus on your roll, whether that's an attack roll or a saving throw or whatever it is. And it's just an extra layer of complexity that I don't feel like you really need. It rewards people with high charisma, and that's basically it. I don't get it. There's nothing wrong with the mechanic, I just don't get it. So next, we're going to move into the neutral section. These are both good and bad, or things that I just don't have a strong opinion on. And the first one is the skill mastery ranks. This works for skills, it works for crafts, it works for attack modifiers and spell DCs. Well, I'm not sure there are any spell DCs because there are spell checks in this game, which is a definite plus. But they more or less ported over the proficiency rules for Pathfinder, except that you're not going to automatically rank up in proficiency. You have to spend skill points. And you also have trade points. And you also get things from your class and from your race. And there's a lot of ways to increase your skill rank, and I think that there's just too many of them. And I'm going to put this mostly into the bad section, because building up your character is a bit complex, but once you have it set up, it clearly is designed to be very fair and balanced at the gaming table, so I've got to give it positive points for that as well, and it kind of perplexes me. Okay, next is action points. In combat, you have 4 action points that you can spend on various actions. I think that this is great, but there are also some actions that don't require action points, and you can spend things on other people's turn, but you can only spend action points on other people's turns if you're using specific actions. I don't have a strong opinion on this one. It's a good system, but it's not a spectacular system. It comes out more or less level, in my opinion, with what you would see in Pathfinder, what you would see in D&D, and a rules light approach is kind of what I prefer for this. I've actually written, okay, I'll get back to that. After this is initiative, and I'll start off by saying that I have written 6 different initiative systems, and none of them take more than a 3x5 card to write down. He spent more than 2 pages on his initiative system, and the meat of it will fit on a 3x5 card, but it seems like there's a lot of details that might not have needed to be covered. That being said, when implemented, you will always go back and forth between players, game master, and so you will have a very fair setup where you never have the entire enemy team go and kill 2 of your players on your team before you get to do anything. So you'd never have that kind of problem, but gosh, that's a lot of text. That's my only real complaint about it. Finally, there apparently is a fixed progression for all character classes. All character classes are going to follow a fixed progression where first they get class features, then they get racial features, and then they get talents, which are custom abilities, which are player selected abilities, at various levels, and all classes are going to follow the same basic progression. It's just different talents available, it seems. And that's a lot like Pathfinder. And Pathfinder is extraordinarily well balanced. I'm not sure what my opinion is on this, because it both gives you a lot of freedom, but it also gives a lot of predictability for yourself and other players at the table. So I have to say that overall, this is a positive point. Also, there are 10 character levels in your primary class, and after those 10 levels, you move into a prestige path. I'll also say that the multi-classing system is also ripped right off of Pathfinder, and I think that's a wonderful thing because they have a great multi-classing system. You simply use your custom features, your talents, in order to select talents from a different class rather than your primary class. You just can't get them as quite as high a class level effect. It's treated as, I missed something. There is one more point in the neutral category, and that is something called spell duels. Spell duels are wonderful. I think that the idea of spell duels is spectacular. However, I think that the Dungeon Coach got this one wrong. According to the rules, please don't kill me for spoiling your rules. It's in the playtest manual. According to the rules, whenever someone casts a spell, they're considered an initiator of the spell. Anyone else capable of casting spells can become a contestant to try and stop them. So they spend the mana points to cast another spell that they know, but the spell that they are casting doesn't actually take effect. They're just trying to negate the effects of your spell. So the initiator will make a spell casting roll, and they will add the number of mana points they're spending to their spell casting roll, and the contestant will do the same thing. They'll add the mana points that they spent on their spell to their spell casting roll as well. And this is a great system until there are multiple contesters or multiple initiators, because it turns out that all of the contesters and all of the initiators roll their dice independently, and the fact that there are 6 contesters doesn't actually give an advantage to the contesters. They all just get to make their own separate attempts to stop you. I would change that. I would say that you should total up the total amount of mana points that all of the contesters are using and add that as a bonus to each contester's check to try and stop the initiators. And the initiators should do the same thing. And by changing the rules in that way, the team that has more members trying to oppose the other team gains an advantage because more mana is being spent to contest or to initiate compared to the other team. You can overwhelm them simply through raw numbers, which is not in any way possible with the current system. And so, just in case the Dungeon Coach actually sees this video, there's some free advice for you. You can take it, you can leave it. I'm not going to hold my breath that you're going to change the text in your book because I had an opinion, but that's what I think. All right, so that is my review of the core basic rules that are laid out for DC20. I will go through in another video what I think for the specific race and class options from the amount that I've looked through so far. They look like they're pretty good, but I will tell you about those in another episode. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think about all of this. And by the way, go buy that book. It's a good one. I'm not being paid for this. It's a very good product. Go buy DC20 right now. All right. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.